Dear pupils, parents and guardians, let me start by thanking you for being a part of all our remote learning platforms, particularly our television program, The Classroom in Your Home. Each feedback has been awesome. Good job, you. Our teachers have been working assiduously to bridge the learning loss during this critical period. Therefore, I am pleased to inform you that the Classroom in Your Home has been extended to accommodate the lower primary classes and a dedicated lesson to cater for our special needs pupils in line with our mandate of providing an all-inclusive and quality basic education in our dear state. This program is fully sponsored by the Universal Basic Education Commission, UBEC, and supported by the Lagos State Universal Basic Education Board under the COVID-19 Blended Learning Intervention Initiative. Please encourage your wards to tune in and take every advantage of this laudable program. Also remember, this pandemic is not over. Let us continue to abide by all health and safety guidelines as stipulated by the government. At LASUBEB, we are determined to leave no child behind in our quest to improve the standard of basic education in our state. Thank you.
Hello pupils, you're welcome to another wonderful edition of your favorite program, The Classroom in Your Home, a program sponsored by the Universal Basic Education Commission, UBEC, and packaged by the Lagos State Universal Basic Education Board, LASUBEB. It is to ensure that you are academically engaged in addition to what you're learning in school. I am Auntie Fumi, your English Studies teacher. I am not here alone. I have with me your wonderful teachers.
Hello children, I am your mathematics teacher. You know me as the mathematician, Uncle Agbaje.
Uncle Popo is here. I am Uncle Popo, General Studies teacher.
And we also have in our midst a sign language interpreter, a wonderful one at that, Uncle Wale. Together,
we are bringing the classroom into your home.
Please stay tuned. Pupils, you're welcome again to Auntie Fumi's class. In our English Studies lesson today, we are going to be writing a letter of complaint. Yes, a letter of complaint. If something doesn't go down well with you and you want to express it, you want it to be corrected, yes, you can write a letter of complaint. Yes, but before we go into writing a letter of complaint, let's have the correction to our previous homework. You were asked to write the job or the job specification of the following people. Number 1, a meteorologist. A meteorologist studies the weather and atmosphere. Yes, they are the people that will tell you it's going to rain tomorrow, it's going to rain today. You understand? So they are the meteorologists. They study the weather and the atmosphere. A botanist. What does a botanist do? A botanist studies plants. Remember that's Uncle Popo's lesson. Yes. So a botanist studies plants. A pilot. What does a pilot do? A pilot controls a plane. We said that in our last lesson. Number 4, a poet. A poet writes poems, and many of you love poems. So, a poet writes poems. A sawyer. Remind me, what does a sawyer do? A sawyer saws timber into planks. A sawyer saws timber into planks. Number 6, a cobbler. A cobbler. What does a cobbler do? A cobbler repairs damaged shoes. Remember we said something about the difference between a shoemaker and a cobbler. A shoemaker makes your new shoes, while a cobbler repairs damaged shoes. Number 7, an artist. What does an artist do? An artist sings. Yeah, an artist sings. How many of you got the 7 correctly? Very good. Then let me celebrate you with a chair. Good job, you. Now to the learning objective for today's lesson. By the end of this lesson, you should be able to state the tips in writing a letter of complaint. State the tips in writing a letter of complaint. Not only that, you should also be able to write a letter of complaint effectively. Are you ready with your writing materials? Good. Relax and let's see. Let's learn how to write a letter of complaint. Life is sometimes about not getting what you want. There are times you want this, you're not getting it. There are times you want to achieve this, but you're not getting it at that particular point in time. That's why I said life is sometimes about not getting what you want. Life is full of disappointments, but sometimes these disappointments are so great that one needs to express his or her mind. At times, why should this be this way? Why should this be happening? I feel like expressing my mind. No, this has to be corrected. No, I must let somebody know about what is happening. I want to write a letter of complaint. That is about expressing your mind. Writing a letter of complaint is partly about getting an annoyance off your chest and partly about seeking redress for a wrongdoing. Something happened. You are not happy about it. You want to express yourself so that you'll be able to get it off your chest. At the same time, you want it addressed so that it can be corrected. That is what writing a letter of complaint is all about. Now let's look at example of letter of complaint. Let's look at the example of the opening part of the letter of complaint. Look at this. I am writing to complain about the poor service rendered in your company. Now you're writing to a company. Maybe you bought a product from them, and the way they attended to you, or the way the product turned out to be, you are not happy about it. This is an example of an opening for a letter of complaint. I am writing to complain about the poor service rendered in your company. Look at another example. I wish to express my dissatisfaction or my unhappiness about the drainage constructed. This is not talking, maybe you are writing to somebody, maybe a local government chairman or so, about the drainage constructed maybe in your streets. I wish to express my dissatisfaction about the drainage constructed. This is another example. Now let's look at example. We have looked at the opening. Let's look at the example of a closing of a letter of complaint. I would appreciate it if you could adjust and improve on your service delivery. That is an example of a closing. I would appreciate it if you could adjust and improve on your service delivery. Another example is, please let me know as soon as possible what action you propose to take. Please let me know as soon as possible what action you propose to take. Another example is, I look forward to hearing from you within the next maybe 1 week, 2 weeks, or days. I look forward to hearing from you within the next, that is requesting for a response to your letter of complaint. Are we together? We've talked about writing a letter of complaint, the tips. Now we want to look at examples of letter of complaint. Example of a letter of complaint. Let's look at this. Can you see? Look at the address. That is the address of the person writing the letter of complaint. It's written at that corner, number 7, the Gerson Street, Church Bus Stop, Barua Ipaja, Lagos. And the date is October 20, 2020. We've talked about writing formal letters before, so we know how it should be punctuated and the arrangement. Now to the letter of the address of the person you are writing to. So the address of the person you are writing to is at the other corner. The chairman, Ipaja Ayobo LCDA. LCDA means Local Council Development Area, Alimosho, and that is in Lagos. Now, to the salutation line, dear sir, maybe because you don't know, but dear sir is very, very appropriate. The heading now, letter of complaint about poor motorable road at the Gerson Street. Letter of complaint about poor motorable road at the Gerson Street. Look at the opening. I'm writing to complain about poor motorable road at the Gerson Street in Church Bus Stop, Alimosho. That is the opening. The road is the only link to other major roads at Barua, and the poor state has been affecting the free flow of traffic at Barua, making a 10-minute drive on the road become a 1-hour drive, which is affecting businesses, daily activities, economic growth, and causing lateness of pupils to school. You know, if you could remember, I said you should write the impact of that, the effect that complaint has on you. So, with the impact is that it is making a 10-minute drive on the road become a 1-hour drive, which is affecting businesses, daily activities, economic growth, and causing lateness of pupils to school. Now to the closing. Look at the example of this closing. I would appreciate it if you can quickly respond to the plea for reconstruction of the road. I take the closing again. I would appreciate it. I will appreciate if you can quickly respond to the plea for reconstruction of the road. Now, yours faithfully, or yours sincerely, signature and the name of the writer. The name of the writer is Yinka Akinyemi, and he went further to introduce himself further by saying a primary school pupil. Are you following the letter? You can see a sample of letter of complaint now, talking about the the road that is not motorable, and the impact, and the closing that is talking about feedback. I will appreciate it if you can quickly respond to the plea for reconstruction of this road. Now it's activity time. I want to see if you've been following me in the course of the lesson, the steps to take, the tips, and the examples of letter of complaint. Write only the opening and closing of a letter of complaint, and the topic is the poor drainage system in my street. You have to write a letter of complaint on or about the poor drainage system in your street. You have 1 minute to write, and your time starts now. Eyes on me. Well done. And by now you ought to have finished writing the opening and the closing of a letter whose heading is the poor drainage system in my street. Now let's look at a possible correction of a possible sample of an opening and closing. Look at my own opening. I am writing to express my dissatisfaction about the poor drainage system in my street. I am writing to express my dissatisfaction about the poor drainage system in my street. That is my opening. And my closing is a swift response or a quick response to the improvement of this drainage system will be much appreciated. A swift response to the improvement of this drainage system will be much appreciated. That is my closing. You have something close to that? Something very close to that. I trust you. You are brilliant children. And I need to celebrate you with a cheer. Well done. Now to the homework for today. Remember, no homework, no pack off, good life magic juice. You are to write a letter of complaint about the poor drainage system in your street. We've written the opening and the closing, and now you have to develop it and give me a full letter. I'll be waiting for you to submit very quickly. Yes. And don't forget, when you're submitting, your name, your school, your class, and your local government education authority must be included. That is the only way you can win packs of Good Life Magic Juice. I want to, by now you ought to have written or copied the assignment. It's as simple as you writing a letter of complaint about the poor drainage system in your street. I don't need to give you any time to copy that. You have done that already. Is that not so? I trust you. You're brilliant children. And that's it for today. We have come to the end of the English Studies lesson for today. Today, we've been able to write a letter of complaint. We've been able to explain that writing a letter of complaint is as a result of if we have any experience that is not pleasant to us and we want it corrected. So we write a letter of complaint. We have the tips that we should make it professional, and then we should make sure, or we should ensure clarity in what you are writing. The opening, the closing. Make sure you state the impact of that thing on you, either financially or emotionally. So it's time to hand you over to the mathematician, Uncle Agbaje, for another beautifully packaged mathematics lesson. Well done, children. Remember, Auntie Fumi is always proud of you. Well done.
Hello, 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 how are you? It's mathematics time with Uncle Agbaje. Hello, hello, Uncle Agbaje. It's mathematics time and we want to have some fun. Welcome, children, to this segment of the program. It is mathematics time, and that means we're going to be having some fun. I am Uncle Agbaje. Today in mathematics, we will conclude our work on multiplications at this time. We will be looking at multiplication of fractions. But before we begin, let's look at that homework that was given to you. You were asked to solve these questions in a stadium. There are 178 rows. Now we're to find the number of seats if each row contains 649 seats. So if one row contains 649 seats, two rows will be 649 again, three rows 649 again, and like that for all the 178 rows. So we'll simply multiply 649 by 178, and to do that, we split the number. Now this one is more than what you did before. 170 and 8. 640 and 9, and that means that we're going to do it a 3 by 3 box. Okay, so that we have 9 spaces. And then by the time you multiply, you get all these numbers. Here's 60,000, because 1 times 6 is 6, then you have 4 zeros. And like that for the rest of them. And we have to add all these numbers. But to make our work easier, I had this column by column. Here we got 64,900. Here add this column, you get, because they're already under each other anyway, 45,430, 5,192, which we can now add together, and then we will get 115,522. I trust that that is what you got as well. Excellent. So we'll conclude by saying the number of seats in the stadium is 115,522. The second question says that if a bucket can hold 9.58 liters of water, what will be the capacity of 39 similar buckets of the same size? Okay, 9.58 liters, 9.58 liters, 9.58 liters, 39 times. And that is 9.58 times 39. So we're just going to multiply 958 by 39, ignoring the decimal point for now. And we'll do it this way. Split the table, and then we'll get 27,000 here, 1,500, 240, 72 there, 450 here, 8,100 here. And we had everything together. And of course, we will get, if you had 2, you get 6, 3, 7, and 3. And so you'll get 37,362, but that is not your final answer, my friend. Remember that you have ignored the decimal point, and you have to put it somewhere. And so to do that, we space out the numbers, and there are 2 digits after the decimal point here, none here. So altogether, we have just 2 digits after the decimal point. So you bring the decimal point and count twice. 1, 2, and you have 373.62. And that means that the capacity of 39 buckets will be 373.62 liters. Are these the answers that you got? Excellent, my friend. Let me celebrate you with a cheer. Yeah, you're good, you're smart. Now for today's learning objectives. By the end of the lesson, you should be able to multiply one fraction by another fraction. You should also be able to multiply 2 mixed numbers, okay? So without wasting much time, let's get to it. Remember that a mixed number is a number that is having a whole part and a fractional part. So we'll get there. Multiplication of a fraction by another fraction. The fraction, of course, is part of a whole. So let us start with this example. Imagine that we are told to multiply 1/2 and 3/4. We can read these times as of. We've said that in our previous lessons that when you have of, it means multiplication. And this multiplication symbol is the same thing as of. So when we say half times 3/4, it means half of 1/2 of 3/4. Now we're going to represent this in a diagram form so that you can see the visualization of it. Now 3/4, here is a box which I've divided into 4 and I've shaded 3 parts blue. So that's 3/4. Now I'm supposed to find half of that 3/4, okay? So the best way for me to find half of the 3/4 is that I'll take half of this, half of this, half of this, and that will be half of everything, obviously. So half of this, half of this, half of this. Okay. And I'm going to do that right away. So I've divided each of the boxes into 2 so I can see the halves. This one has its own half. So they are fractions, but they still have a fractional part. So 3/4 is the blue part, 1/4 is the black part, and then I've divided each of them into half. So everything now comes down to 8 parts altogether. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. Then to now find the half of 3/4, I will shade half of this one yellow, half of this one yellow, half of this one yellow. And so at the end of the day, I end up, this is 3/4, then I shade half, 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 and I end up with 3 yellow parts. And in relation to the whole, how many parts were there? You remember we had 8 parts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So that's 3 parts out of 8 parts. And therefore, we say that half of 3/4 is 3 out of 8. But of course, there is another way of doing this. We will not always have to draw rectangles and shading every time we want to find a multiply fraction. So there are several ways, 2 ways to do it. The first one we're going to look at, we simply multiply the numerators by the numerator, or what I call top times top, and then bottom times bottom. So when you have to multiply fractions together, you will multiply the top together, bottom together, and then finally you have one whole fraction which you can break down to the lowest terms. Now let's look at that same example again. We have to find half times 3/4. And so I'm going to multiply 1 times 3 because they are the numerators. This is not like addition and subtraction of fractions where you cannot operate the denominator. Here you can multiply the denominators and you can multiply the numerators. So because we're not saying add 1/2 to 1/2, okay, so we're just saying multiply. So you can multiply numerator by numerator, denominator by denominator, and we've done this severally in the course of working with proportions, fractions, ratio. Okay, so we're just looking at the process now. 1 times 3, of course, here, 2 times 4 here, and you get 1 times 3 is 3, 2 times 4 is 8, and you see that we get 3/8, okay? And this is the method that is going to be used by you when you're working it out. I just use that diagram to show you the visualization of it. Now, here's another example. This one says we are to find 3/4 of 5/6 or multiply 3/4 by 5/6. Okay, so we just do what we have just done in the previous slide, and that is to multiply numerator by numerator. 3 times 5 is 15, 4 times 6 is 24, and we have 3/24. But that is not the lowest terms. To find the lowest terms, my friend, we have to look for what is common to both of them. So let me take a white pen here. Here 3 can divide, and we have 5, and 3 can divide, here we have 8, and that is the lowest terms. Okay, so multiply all the numerators, denominators, get one whole fraction, then break it down, and you get 5/8. This is the easy approach, my friend, but I'm not always a fan of this approach. Do you know why? I'll show you why. Let's check out the approach that I prefer. We use common factors to reduce the top and bottom numbers before multiplying together. We reduce to the lowest terms before multiplying together. And that is because in the process of multiplying, it's like we are building a house. And in the process of reducing to the lowest fraction, it's like we are demolishing a house. Now, if we know we're still going to demolish the house, why build it in the first place? Okay, so if we have to take something, we want to build 2-story buildings, you don't take it up to 10-story buildings and start breaking it down again. Just stop at 2-story building is what I advocate. And so when you want to do that, you divide one number at the top and then the same number at the bottom. That's the principle of equivalence in fractions. The same number you used to divide a numerator, it will be the same number you used to divide a denominator. So top takes bottom and bottom takes top. But you don't do top takes top. You don't divide a number at the top and a number at the top again. No. You have to do one above, one below, as I always say. Okay, so let's see that in action. The same example from the last time. Now, instead of multiplying direct and then dividing again, we'll just look at 3/4 times 5/6 and look at what can go. And so I see that I have 3 here and 6 here, and they have a common factor, which is 3. So I use 3 to divide straight away. 1 at the top, 3 goes in 3 one time, and I take 1 at the bottom. It could be this, it could be this. If there are 3 fractions, it could be 1 at the top, 1 at the bottom here, as long as you take 1 on top, 1 below. Okay, so 3 goes here, 3, and 3 goes here, 3 goes here, 1, and 3 goes here, 2. And what else can go? I do not see anything else that can go because 4 and 5, no common factors. 1 and 4, that's the lowest term. 2 and 5, that's the lowest term. So nothing can go. Okay, so we just say 1 times, we can now multiply again. And we get 1 times 5 is 5, 4 times 2 is 8. I will back to 5/8. And this is a fraction we do not need to break down. And the reason why I like this method is because sometimes you can multiply everything together and you get a fraction with huge numerator and huge denominator. Okay, now you begin to think, what will I use to divide again? In the first place, you should not even have multiplied. So when you want to do yours, I prefer you use this. Okay, so here's another example. Now imagine if we have to multiply 14 by 15, we're getting the number 205. 210, yes, we'll be getting 210, and 3 times 7 is 21, and I write 21 over 210. It's going to be somehow for us to divide because those are large numbers, but instead I see that 3 can go here and 3 can go here, 7 can go here and 7 can go here, so I just do that. 3 goes here 1, 3 goes here 15, 7 goes here 1, and 7 goes here 2, and these are smaller numbers that are easy for me to deal with. So now I'm done because 1 and 2 lowest terms, 1 and 5 lowest terms, 1 and 5 lowest terms. So I can multiply out 1 times 1 is 1, 2 times 5 is 10. So my final answer, my friend, is 1 over 10. Easy peasy, right? But of course, you're familiar with doing something like this. Let's check out multiplication of mixed numbers. Now, as I have said earlier, mixed numbers are numbers that have whole parts and fractional parts. So how do we undo that? Well, we will not do it the way of addition and subtraction. We will not multiply whole with whole, fraction with fraction, no. Rather, what we do is that we change the mixed numbers to improper fractions, okay? And then we multiply like normal fractions. So let's see examples. This example says that we should multiply 2 3/10 by 2.5. So we don't say 2 times 2, 3/10 times 1/2. No, that's not the way to go about it. We'll first change this one to a mixed number, an improper fraction, this one to an improper fraction, and so 2 3/10 is the same thing as 23/10 because 1 whole is 10/10, another 1 whole is 10/10. So 10/10 and 10/10, that's 20/10. Then you have 3/10. 20/10 and 3/10, 23/10, as you can see. But of course, we have a shorter way of doing that. 10 times 2 is 20. 20 plus 3 is 23. You still get a 23/10. This one, okay, 2 halves, that's 1 whole. Another 2 halves, that's 1 whole. So if you have 2, that's 2 halves, 2 halves, that's 4 halves altogether. Then plus 1, that's 5, plus 1 half, that's 5 halves, and that's why you have 5 over 2. But you can just do 2 times 2, which is 4, plus the 1 on top, you get 5 over 2. And so this is the same thing as this. 2.5 is the same thing as 5 over 2. We will now multiply them in their improper form. And so we write 23/10, 5 halves. And we'll look for what can go. 23 and 10, these are the lowest terms. Nothing can divide because 23 is a prime number. But 5 and 10, they are not at the lowest point, so we can divide them, reduce them. And 5 is the common factor, so 5 goes here 1, 5 goes here 2. And then what else? Well, I think we are at the lowest that we can go because 1 and 2, lowest terms. 1 and 2, lowest terms. So we just multiply the numerators. That's 23 times 1, and then the denominators 2 times 2, and you get 23 over 4, which of course it's better we take this back to the mixed number form. So we'll find out how many quarters are there in 23. In 23, we're going to have 5 quarters. Yes, 5 quarters. And then 3 quarters extra. So 4 in 23 is 5, remaining 3. So that's 23, 5 whole number, 3 all over 4. So again, the procedure is simple. For mixed numbers, change them to improper form and then multiply them as you normally multiply a fraction. When you have your answer, if it is an improper fraction, take it back to a mixed number form. So here are some for you to do. I'll give you 1 minute, 10 seconds to attempt this, and I'll be right back. Alrighty then, I believe that you are done. That first one, quite easy. I believe you found it very easy. So let's check it out, how it's done. 2 over 7 times 7 over 8. Obviously, 7 and 7 can reduce each other. and 2 and 8 can reduce each other as well, so we'll just do that. 2 goes here 1, 2 goes in 8 4 times. And these are the lowest terms for these. 7 and 4 lowest terms, but 7 and 7 we can reduce them. So 7 goes in 7 1, 7 goes in 7 1, and now these numbers are their lowest. We cannot reduce further than this. Then we multiply numerator by numerator, denominator by denominator. 1 times 1 is 1, 1 times 4 is 4, and we'll get our final answer 1 all over 4, 1/4. I'm sure that's what you got because this one's quite easy. Let's see that one that has to do with mixed numbers. 3/3 multiplied by 1/1/8. Okay, do not be scared, my friend. I'm sure you were not scared of it. So what we do is that we change everything to mixed number. So 5 multiplied by 3 is 15, plus 3, that's 18/5. And then for the other one, 1/1/8, that is 8 times 1, 8 plus 1, 9. Okay, because 1 whole is 8/8. 1 whole is 8/8. Then you have 1/8. 8/8 and 1/8, that's 9/8. All right. Then we multiply 18/5 and 9/8. And so, can we see things? Is there anything to reduce this? 5 and 9, lowest terms. 18 and 8, not lowest terms. We can reduce. Okay, so we'll reduce by 2. 2 goes here 4, and 2 goes here 9. So what can reduce? I do not see any. Do you see any? No. 9 and 4 lowest terms, 9 and 5 lowest terms, 5 and 9 lowest terms. And we cannot do top and top. Impossible is not right. So we multiply 9 by 9 and then we multiply 5 by 4. 9 times 9 is 81, 5 times 4 is 20. But to change this back to mixed number, how many 20s can we get in 81? We'll get 4. And we're still left with 1/20th. So how many 20th are there in 81 20th? So that's 4 20th. Then we have 1/20th extra. And that should be your final answer. Did you get it right? Now let me celebrate you with another chair. Excellent job, you, my friend. Now, if you did not get it right, you have enough practice questions with the online assessment. And of course, with this homework, which you have 20 seconds to write. Alrighty then, my friends, I believe that you are done writing. Practice, because the essence of mathematics is practice. It's not by rote learning, it's not by cramming, it's by practice. And that's how you get better, and that's how you become a mathematician. Till I come your way in the next lesson, I want you to remain wonderful mathematicians. Over now to Uncle Popo. Bye now.
Hello, pupils. You are welcome to General Studies class. I am Uncle Popo. Let's open today's lesson the usual way we've been doing. Uncle Popo is here.
I am also here.
Good. We are here together.
100% attention.
Brilliant one. 100% attention is what I want you to give me in today's lesson. Our subject for today is agricultural science. In our last lesson in agricultural science, we talked about importance of agriculture. We need to discuss that in today's lesson. Our topic for today is disadvantages of agriculture. The learning objectives. By the end of the lesson, you should be able to, even if you have treated the topic, the definition of agriculture before, you still need to define agriculture and list the disadvantages of agriculture. Agriculture could be referred to as, don't forget I told you PPPDA as a new format for definition of agriculture. You were told that agriculture has gone beyond cultivation of land and rearing of animals for human consumption, because the modern practice of agriculture today now goes beyond just rearing of animals and cultivation of land. So agriculture could be referred to as the production, processing, promotion, and distribution of agricultural products. That is PPPDA. PPDA, production, processing, promotion, and distribution of agricultural products. That definition could be referred to as the production, processing, promotion, and distribution of agricultural products. Don't forget that the kind of agriculture we practice today is different from the one practiced in the olden days, and much of our agricultural practice today is more of mechanized farming. So this is still talking about mechanized farming, the use of machines to do some of the processing in agriculture. As agriculture plays a critical role in the entire life of a given economy, it also has its disadvantages. So those disadvantages is what we want to discuss in today's lesson. Disadvantages of agriculture. The first one is disease transmission. Say that, disease transmission. We should forget not that agriculture, in cultivating the land, in rearing of animal, people contract disease from these processes. The farmers or people involved in rearing of animals, in cultivating the land, contract diseases from the processes. Research also proved that the food we eat nowadays, most of the food we eat nowadays, we get disease contracted from it because of the chemicals in preparation, in raising it, and it's a lot of problem to us. So disease transmission is one of the disadvantages of agriculture. Now some are saying, should we not eat food again? Should we not rear animals again? I'm not saying that we cannot even do without food, but we cannot deny the fact that we get disease from raising or rearing of animals, from cultivation of land, even from the food we get from agriculture. Next is exposure to pesticides and herbicide. Exposure to pesticides and herbicide is another disadvantage of agriculture. The kind of agriculture we practice nowadays, we make use of pesticides, we make use of herbicide, and those chemicals, when we inhale them, it has side effects on our body. So this is another disadvantage of agriculture. Next one is contamination from animal waste. Contamination from animal waste. Soil, water, and air pollution from chemicals or animal waste. We still recollect that where we have poultry farms or where they are rearing some animals, the waste from those animals reared is causing a lot of contamination, maybe it's on water, air, soil, and it's affecting human beings. So contamination from animal waste is another problem posed by agriculture. Next one is, it is time consuming. It is time consuming. Too much time may be spent managing crops, leading to a neglect of other obligations. Take for instance, before one can plant and harvest cocoa, take years, more than 1 year. So, and some other product like that that will require your attention. Even in trying to raise or cultivate certain crops, we need the attention of the farmer or the person to be very close to those crops because of some activities we need to carry out. So it's time consuming, and by doing that, you neglect some obligations, you neglect some activities that will also benefit your life because you want to raise certain crops, because you want to harvest certain crops. We should not, to say the reality, raising or rearing of some animals is time consuming. That's another disadvantage of agriculture. The next one is the excessive use of chemicals reduces the fertility of the land. The excessive use of chemicals reduces the fertility of the land. Like I've been saying, that the kind of modernized farming we are doing today, we are practicing today, require us to make use of some chemicals. And when we make use of those chemicals on our land, certain nutrients are leached away. Certain nutrients are lost. And through that, the land will not be fertile. The nutrient required from the land will not be there anymore because of the excessive use of chemicals. That's another point. Excessive use of chemicals reduces the fertility of the soil. Next one is the cost of maintenance is very high in mechanized farming. The cost of maintenance is very high in mechanized farming. It is clear as crystal that the cost of maintenance is very high in mechanized farming. To maintain tractor, to maintain some farming equipment is very high, and few people have money to take care or maintain those machines. So that's another problem. Our forefathers that are still practicing agriculture, some cannot even afford those machines, and if they can afford it, they cannot maintain those machines. So it's a problem in agriculture. Next one is overuse of machines may lead to environmental damage. Overuse of machines may lead to environmental damage. Yes, the use of tractors on some farms, the use of some big machines on the farm may lead to environmental damage. That's another problem. Displacement of workers is another disadvantage of agriculture. Displacement of workers. What does that mean? In farm mechanization, very few workers are required. Hence, many people will be out of job when mechanization is introduced. Yes, that's a fact, because with the use of machines now, we have a few people that we need your service to work on the farms. And because of that, it's bringing displacement of workers. Unlike the olden days where we need many people to work on the farm, where the farmers will have many wives and give birth to many children so that they can help the farmer on the farm. Today, we are making use of machines, and with the use of machines, we have few workers to be needed in working on the farm. As a result of that, displacement of workers is what we are seeing. In today's lesson, we have talked about disadvantages of agriculture. Today, we try to look at the definition for agriculture that will cover the kind of practice we are involving in today's farming. We talked about agriculture as, we define agriculture as the production, processing, promotion, and distribution of agricultural products. That's PPPDA. Then we looked at disadvantages of agriculture. Disease transmission is one of the disadvantages. Exposure to pesticides and herbicides. Contamination from animal waste. It is time consuming. It's another disadvantage of agriculture. Displacement of workers. Overuse of machines may lead to environmental damage. And lastly, we talked about excessive use of chemicals, which reduces the fertility of the land. All this we discussed in today's lesson. I know some of you are now waiting for me to talk about the winner of that debate, because we have looked at the disadvantages of agriculture, and in our last lesson we talked about the advantages. But let's have the evaluation in today's class. Question number 1. What is agriculture? Question number 2. List 3 disadvantages of agriculture. You have 30 seconds to write the answers. Your time starts now. Eyes on me. Uncle Popo is here. I believe you are still there. So let's mark today's work. First question, what is agriculture? Agriculture could be referred to as the production, processing, promotion, and distribution of agricultural products. Let's to the disadvantages of agriculture. We have many disadvantages we have discussed today, but any three of those that we have discussed are correct. Disease transmission, 1. Exposure to pesticides and herbicides, which are dangerous for humans' health. 3. Contamination from animal waste. It is time-consuming, displacement of workers, and many others. Mark accordingly and score yourself. We have come to the end of today's lesson. Until next time, next lesson, Uncle Popo says, keep on studying. Bye.
My wonderful pupils, we've come to the end of another exciting episode on the classroom in your home.
Yes, a fun-filled one at that. Now it's time for our homework and online practice. The link for today's assessment can be found on bit.ly/LASUBEB lesson 72. The link again is bit.ly/LASUBEB lesson 72. You can also take the online practice tests, which we have on bit.ly/LASUBEB tests. There you will find all the online assessments that we've been doing from lesson 1 to lesson 72. Remember, the online assessment is our way of knowing how well you're performing. It complements all that you have learned on the classroom in your home and in school, because we want to help you raise your performance.
Taking the online assessment is based on if you have access to either your daddies, your mommies, your uncles, or your aunties' Android or smartphones. If not, there's no problem. Just send your questions, your comments, and your assignment to 081-50-86-5663. Please do not call that line. SMS and WhatsApp messages only. And when you are sending in your assignment, make sure you indicate your name,
your school,
your class,
and your local government education authority. That is your LGEA. This is the only way we can identify you to be able to appraise you accordingly.
All the lessons taught today and the previous ones are on LASUBEB YouTube channel for you to watch over and over again. Subscribe to LASUBEB YouTube channel to get notification when new videos are uploaded. The classroom in your home could be watched live on Facebook, the same time airing on television, through the page showing on the screen.
Until our next lesson, when we shall meet again on another beautifully packaged edition of the classroom in your home, make sure you do your homework.
Wash your hands regularly.
Work hard and
Stay safe.
LASUBEB,
Leave no child behind.